Well, good morning. This morning I think I'll see if I can demonstrate how to make one of these sleds to use on the table saw for cutting spline grooves, I guess is what I want to say, in the corners of picture frames. So this is what my original looked like, and I've already started doing a few things with the one that we're going to try to make today, and it's the same. It's just a copy, only I've made a few modifications. I made the area for the clamp to go in deeper and wider, and this will give more space for any of you that want to have a bigger clamp and you know, to clamp your picture frame to. And we'll decide to change my plans a little bit again. I think we'll just fasten these pieces together first. It'll be a little easier and it'll stay nice and square that way without guessing at what the rest of it's going to look like. Okay, I've cut two 3 inches by 3 inch by 1/2 inch Baltic birch for the end pieces here. So the next thing I'll do is just take and fasten these two pieces together like so, and then it'll be real easy to set it on there, and it'll kind of flatten out the piece of 3/8 base that has kind of warped a little bit for some reason. So hopefully that'll help things out. But I'll do that off camera, so you guys know how to glue things together, so I won't bore you with that kind of stuff. My piece that I had picked out would not lay flat, so I had to square up another piece of the base. So here we go. This is nailed and glued together. It's going to go to the front, turn it around so that it'll be right here flush with the front. Now in the back, we're going to take a piece of 3/8 plywood and we'll set it right here like so, cut it 3 inches tall, and then we'll put some spacers in here that will hold this in place so that there's room for the clamp, for the back of the clamp to go in here. Okay, here's a pretty good size clamp, and I don't think we'll have any trouble putting the clamp down in there with that space. You can make this back wider or narrower, whatever you want to do to fit your personal needs. The main thing is so that you can clamp your picture frame or shadow box securely and square so that it'll get a nice clean cut. Okay, the next thing then, like I say, is to cut this to 3 inches tall. This is already 12 inches. And then we'll put one on each end, a block, and then we'll put two more positioned in here so that they won't interfere with the clamp when we want to put our clamp down. Okay, I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit. I need to show you how to set this angle up here in our sled. Now here's a mock-up that I made so we can determine whether we've got the right angles here. Okay, so we're working on this angle on the inside of this piece here. So I've cut myself a 3 inch long piece of plywood that is 90 degrees here, and then I went 45 off of the bottom here. And so now what I'm going to do is set it right in the corner. That would be like right in here, if you can see that. And then we'll draw a line right from the corner down. Then after we've got that line in place, then we can take our piece of wood, whatever it is we're going to use to make this piece out of, this guy here, and we'll lay it in here, and then we'll scribe a line on the inside of it. After we've done that, then it's fairly simple to just take a framing square and set it up on that line, and then get everything parallel there and flush with the bottom, of course, and then you can draw this line. After you got that line drawn, then now the next thing we need to do is to measure about 3/16 of an inch in from this line that we drew here, and then we'll draw another line. The reason for that is so that it'll keep the bottom corner of the picture frame from bottoming out when you set it into the groove. So now it's actually going to set up just a little bit above the bottom, so nothing's going to bottom out on this when it's down against the base. Okay, does that make sense? And then when you put this piece in, it's going to go on this line like that, and then everything should be a nice 90-degree angle here for your picture frame to set in, and it still isn't coming all the way to the bottom, which is good. Okay, I hope that kind of cleared it up. Next thing I did to this was to drill a 5/8 inch hole here in the back of this thing. I just kind of figured out approximately where my balance point was. So now I can hang it on the wall, and we'll next time I need it, why, it's going to be right where I want it. Now I get some things out of the way here so that I don't have an accident with the saw. I decided to try some spring clamps and see how that works. I think they might be okay. One there, one there. Might even be able to get by with just one clamp. Okay, we'll run the thing through like so. Bring it back. Take our clamps off, rotate it. Clamp them down again. Run it through again. And we'll do this on all four sides. And that will give us a complete go around on the front side. Now you can turn this thing around like this. See what I'm doing? And then drop it in again and hold it in place and clamp it down, run it through, and take the clamps off, rotate it 3 more times, like so, running it through the saw each time. When you get done, then of course you've got a kerf on each side of each corner. So now I guess the next thing to do is to show you how to make the little spline that goes into the corner. It's pretty simple and straightforward. I usually cut it on the saw, on the table saw, and then after I've done that, then I'll run it through the drum sander and size it to the right thickness. Another way you can do would be to take a caliper, figure out how wide this is exactly, probably 1/8 of an inch approximately, and then set your fence so that you have 1/8 of an inch on the outside of your saw blade, and that way when you run it through the saw, it's not going to pinch against the fence by being 1/8 of an inch away from the fence. So let's give that a try and we'll see how that works. I should have mentioned earlier that we don't want this kerf to go through the inside of this, and so when you get ready to set your saw depth, set this on here and then determine the distance from the tabletop to the inside of this, and then come back just enough so that you don't go through the inside of that. Otherwise it's going to ruin a nice project. So I think to let you kind of experiment with that and figure out how you want to do that. Okay, I've measured the kerf to see how wide the thing is, and it measures just between 103 and 104 thousandths. So I'll just set my fence so that this piece of board that I have here that I'm going to make my spline out of is sticks out past the saw that 104 thousandths. I may have to sand it off just a little bit when I get done, but it'll be very close. Okay, here we go. Cut off a slab here. I think I'll have to run a couple of strips here in order to get enough to go all the way around on all four corners twice, so I'll need 8 of them. Now it'll be quite simple. I've got one that looks like it's going to fit in there. I better check it just to be sure. Could be just a little bit tighter actually, just almost too loose. So maybe I need to make them just a little bit wider. Okay, this time all I have to do is set this on the side of the saw blade and move my fence over to where this lays against the saw blade, and then the board that I'm going to cut it off from is going to be just about the same thickness. I'm going to make it just a little bit wider, then I can always sand it down just a little bit. Okay, here goes the second. Really should be using some sort of a stick to hold this in place so that my hands don't get so close to the saw blade. Now we're going to do our second test and see how it fits. Oh, perfect! Got my spline pieces cut, but I had a little bit of a problem. I should have put a zero clearance insert in here, so I decided I'd use this old carpenter's trick that I've heard from all kinds of different people, woodworking people who have had experiences like that. And the idea is that you take a piece of masking tape and crank your saw down so it's below the table level, and then you put your piece of tape over the throat in your insert, and then start the saw up after you put this glued on really nice. Start your saw on and crank the blade up and let it saw through. And after that, you've got zero clearance. See, isn't that slick? Okay, let's work on these splines. I don't think I'm going to bore you with the details of gluing these in and waiting for them to dry and everything. So I've cut these little chunks of wood so that I can just slip them right in there, and then put glue on both sides and down in the slot if you want to, and just put it in there like that, and just hold it in place, let it dry. You can go ahead and put your splines in all the way around like so in the corners. Let them dry overnight, or if it's a warm day you can maybe 3 hours or 4 hours, something like that, will do the job. So Whoops, I was kind of out of the picture, wasn't I? Okay, there you can see what I've done with the splines. And they just sit in like this. I just cut these about 1.25 inches long, and they're plenty long on each side. Okay, after the glue is dried, then you just take your pull saw or whatever you have for a saw, cut them off, and leave them out just a little bit so you have room to sand them off flush. And when you get done, then you'll have a nice strong corner on your frame. Like I said before last week when I was talking about it, you can throw them on the floor and stomp on them. Of course, they'll probably break then, but they're extremely strong. So that's it for this time. If you like this video, please check the like below and subscribe to my channel. There will be more coming each week.